Cinema Classics is sponsored by the Gateway Film Center and is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. You can listen to full shows online at wcbe.org. I'm Johnny DiLoretto.
I'm John DeSando.
This here is Cinema Classics.
It is.
We got two of them working in conjunction with each other right now.
Yeah.
Tell me about the card counter.
Okay, the card counter, which is written and directed by Paul Schrader.
The great Paul Schrader.
Oh, the great, and we have to talk about him. Everybody knows him from Taxi Driver and from Raging Bull as the writer.
As the writer.
Yeah.
Martin Scorsese's early career sort of partner in crime.
Yeah. And so, in the card counter, Scorsese is one of the producers.
Okay.
As well as Eric's boss, Jeff Rice. And
Eric, your son?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And it stars what I think to be one of the premier actors of his time, Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, Oscar Isaac is an interesting... First of all, let me preface this conversation by saying two things. I have seen not enough works by either one of these two artists.
Yep.
Which is interesting when you think about Paul Schrader, and especially his attachment to those early Scorsese movies like, as you mentioned, Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
And, he wrote Raging Bull, co-wrote Raging Bull. He co-wrote Last Temptation of Christ.
Yes.
He is an interesting, fascinating filmmaker. And it's his, what I love about those collaborations with Scorsese is they're such different souls, right? Scorsese is that passionate, Catholic, demonstrative Italian, right? And Schrader is the inward, Calvinist, repressed...
Wonderful, yes. Yeah.
Wasp,
Yeah.
right? And somehow when he gives voice to his tortured kind of screenplays, and these characters that are pent up and repressed, Scorsese just breathes like passionate life into that. But having said that, I've seen two of this guy's movies.
Okay, so
20 movies about.
But every one of them that we can pick out is a fine movie. But in the card counter, which I think is one of the best of the year, it's another fallen guy. Mm-hmm. Now both Scorsese and our boy here, really Schrader, love this kind of guy, and I think
obsessed, is he not? Another obsessed figure?
Sure. Okay. And falling, waiting to be redeemed in some way or another. I mean, Travis Bickle and our protagonist in this one, William Tell, obviously a pseudonym, are both looking for redemption in one way or the other. Or they're looking to expiate their sins or the sins of the world.
Yeah.
So it has a Schrader and Scorsese mark to it.
Tell me what it means. This word always comes up in discussions of Schrader. And I just don't want to go down the rabbit hole, so I'm looking to you to kind of give me the sum up. What does it mean to be Calvinist?
It means there are very rigid rules of performance in every way, religious and personal. It's pretty close to our puritanical notion, but I think it may be even more severe.
Really?
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that drives our priest in the First Reformed crazy.
Right.
And to add to, Schrader didn't see a movie till he was like 16. His parents wouldn't let him.
Yeah, isn't that great? So when you think of it that way, cinema becomes like a virgin. There has to be this passion. He's a virgin to the world. Like if you love movies, and you're denied seeing one until you're 16, that's intense.
Yes. Well, our boy in the card counter,
Oscar Isaac. We're talking about Oscar Isaac
playing William Tell. He is a former interrogator, Abu Ghraib, Gitmo kind of interrogator.
Yeah.
And he was put in Leavenworth for 8.5 years. Now he was a grunt, and easy pickings for those who wanted to assuage their consciences, because the guy who trained him played by who else but Willem Dafoe, a crazed Major Gordo, trained him. He's a little free. So when our card counter, who has become a proficient card player, particularly at poker, he does both blackjack and poker, but he is really good at it, stays low on the radar, accumulates only a certain amount of money so he doesn't get ejected from casinos. So he has that kind of control in his life. And he then meets up with a young man, played by Ty Sheridan, and whose father was one of the torturers, one of the interrogators, and who eventually committed suicide. So this young man, whose name is Cirque, attributes that to Gordo, to the crazed Willem Dafoe Gordo.
Okay.
So he would like revenge.
All right. So
enough. All right, that's enough, right? That was a Wayne. That was a Wayne moment.
Lumbering, jumbled up. I just have to see this movie.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the card counter yet. I'm really excited to see it. What really fascinates me right now is the dialogue I'm seeing online about this movie. Critics love it, audiences hate it. And as you and I both know, as people who have spent the better part of their adult lives poring over cinema and reading about it and seeing everything, this is an exciting thing that happens when a movie is so divided between critics and audience. I'm fascinated when that happens. So what is it about the card counter that is making casual moviegoers get so flustered and walking out of this movie? I've read several accounts of people walking out of it.
Yeah, in fact, my friend Mary was telling me that there are people who left with 15 minutes to go. How does that work?
Yeah.
Boy, I'd be running after them.
Nothing makes me want to see a movie more than when your average moviegoer is so frustrated by it that they walk out.
Well, for a person not as obsessed as we are, the slow pace, the fact that you don't get everything, that it's impossible to get really inside this major character, but you do see an awful lot of it. It's difficult to see why he needs to get involved with this kid in order to absolve himself of his sins, because he can't get rid of Gitmo in his mind and the torture that he was involved in. Anyway, so there's not a whole lot that happens, which of course means everything is happening. He does things like he wraps every piece of furniture in his motel room in white sheets with twine. Imagine that.
Wow, interesting.
without explanation.
Yeah.
And I've got an answer, but it's strictly a figurative answer for why he does it. Anyway, so he's crazed, the kind of character I like. Tiffany Haddish is against type. She plays a serious lady. And then Ty Sheridan. Anyway, so but we're talking about Schrader and Isaac.
Yeah, we'll get to Oscar Isaac. I want to jump back for a minute. Schrader's earlier career, when he was more closely associated to Scorsese,
right?
Even when he wasn't working directly with Scorsese, that was where he had the most commercial success. His first attempt at directing was Blue Collar. You remember that movie with Richard Pryor?
Oh my God!
And Harvey Keitel, great little, gritty comedy about, blue collar workers. That was a commercial success. Hardcore with George C. Scott, where he goes looking for his daughter, who's ended up in the porn industry.
Yep.
Also, not a big hit, but definitely I think fit into the commercial mold more at that time. There was American Gigolo with Richard Gere.
Yeah.
And Lauren Hutton, a hot little movie, and then Cat People, right?
Oh, yeah.
So right out of he's got these
Mosquito Coast.
He wrote that.
Yeah.
That came later. Yeah. But that was more Peter Weir, and the focus was on Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
I'm talking about when Paul Schrader is the actual director of the film.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
When the commercial success rides or dies on his contribution.
Yeah.
After Cat People, he really kind of just becomes an independent film director. those movies weren't so commercially successful that he could really thrive in Hollywood. You know what I mean? So I guess what I'm asking you is, what about Paul Schrader and his approach to film and his themes and the way he articulates and gives image to those themes? What is it about that is different than Scorsese, and why has Scorsese had a much better critical and commercial reception than Schrader?
Great question. My feeling is that the Scorsese is much more of a showman. That actually, as dark as he is, he's still a guy who provides you with a Harvey Keitel kind of character, with all of its flash, and Travis Bickle, and so. And Schrader just doesn't have a sense of flash. What he has a sense of is this kind of smoldering, deep, lost character.
Yeah.
But there's more in Scorsese. That, I mean, any of Scorsese's films are far more popular, do you think, than Schrader's? Schrader's just I think.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I think people may not respond to all of Scorsese's movies the way he wants them to, but very few audience members walk out of a Scorsese movie.
Well, don't you think it's similar to Tarantino? I mean, you got a Tarantino movie, you got lots of glitz among the deep stuff. He's good. He just knows how to be a showman. Schrader just knows how to reveal character, troubled, lost character. He's great at it.
Yeah.
And but I would have to say too, as a director, one of the indexes I thought, besides the good movies, is that he has directed 2 Academy Award performances, nominated performances.
Yeah, what are they?
James Coburn and Nick Nolte, both in Affliction.
So both in one movie.
Yeah, both in one movie. How about that?
Yeah, I was surprised. Did Ethan Hawke get nominated for First Reform?
I think so, or at least First Reform was nominated.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, First Reform definitely marked a sort of critical comeback for Schrader.
Oh, without question.
And I think he's riding the wave of that.